And we're live. Welcome to another episode of the Friendly Ex-Muslim podcast or show, or whatever you want to call it. I'm your host, Abdullah Samir. So I have some stuff to share with you guys, a bunch of different things. I also want to go into more detail on the Aisha topic, some stuff I didn't get to cover last time. And I know I had the stream late, very late, my time. So there's a lot of UK people that couldn't join. So I wanted to do it a little bit earlier so the people that missed out on the last live stream could come in and join us. Alrighty, give me a second. Let me know if this sounds okay. Okay, it looks like it's much better than last time. I had some issues with the audio video sync. Hopefully it's it's better. Also, I want to test sharing some audio. I'm gonna play a clip and see if you guys can hear it okay. So let me give this a shot. Share screen. Okay, let me try share screen. Screen 2. Alrighty, so okay, there's an option to share system audio. Okay, we're gonna try this. We're gonna try this 2 different ways, see what happens. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play this clip. Let me know if you guys can hear it okay. I'm gonna mute my own mic.
Assalamu alaikum. I've had conversations with several ex-Muslims.
Okay, I'm guessing you couldn't hear that, so I'm gonna keep my mic on. I'm gonna try again.
Assalamu alaikum. I've had conversations with several ex-Muslims over the years. I've spoken to them just like normally to find out like why they've left Islam. And the number one reason that I have come across from the people I've spoken to is they've just been treated really badly by Muslims, by Muslim families, communities, and that just put them off religion completely. I mean, if you ask them, a lot of them, if you ask them, do you believe in Allah? Do you believe in God? They believe in it. They believe in everything, the fundamentals of Islam, but because of the experiences they've gone through, it's completely put them off Islam. And it's funny because some people get put off Islam because of the way they have been treated by Muslims, and some non-Muslims come to Islam because of the way they've been treated by Muslims. So this human element is so important. To bring people to Islam or to push people away from Islam, and it's something like we all need to take into consideration. My time's run out.
Okay, so if you guys saw that, this is not it doesn't have a big channel or anything, 90 subscribers.
By Muslim
But
families,
anyways,
community.
interesting comments he has there. You heard a bit of echo. Yeah, John, thanks, because I had my microphone on as well. Okay, so just to before we jump into the actual topic, let's just cover this first because this is interesting. This guy, ZD, is 786, meaning Bismillah. He's saying that people leave Islam because of the treatment of Muslims in the Muslim community. Now, this is interesting. To me, this is kind of no true Scotsman situation in the sense that they're trying to say that it's not because of Islam that they're leaving Islam, it's because of some other issue. And he's saying he speaks to many people that have this issue. So it's quite possible that there are 2 issues here. One issue being that, one issue is, yes, they have a problem with Islam, and 2 is they may have a problem with Muslims as well. So it's quite possible that in that this guy he's hearing the bad treatment take, but he's missing out on the scriptural take, or maybe he doesn't want to hear that. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe that's just not like something that's registering because of the cognitive dissonance. It's just like, the guy says something, or the girl says, "Yeah, I left Islam. I had this, Quran has this issue, and also my mom, treated me badly." Okay, so there's multiple issues, but maybe he's just kind of like ignoring a bunch of them and focusing on the ones he wants to focus on, which make Islam seem conveniently perfect. Let me tell you my experience. The people I know, let's start with myself. It's kind of like a dumb old take, but let's just start with myself. I didn't have any problems. My family. I am the one that converted to Sunni Islam on my own. My family had no issue with that. I mean, they were happy even. And when I left Islam, I mean, again, there was nothing there. Another good friend of mine, Reason on Faith, Sohail Ahmed, had an amazing relationship with his family. Took care of his dad until he passed away, and his dad was still Ahmadi Muslim. And there was no issue there. Even there was no issue. I mean, just look at Mimsy, Wids, and Walid, right? The father/father-in-law is Hassan Radwan. They didn't have a problem with bad treatment from Muslims, as far as I know. I've never heard them say anything like that. They have a loving family relationship. I mean, I'm focusing on family because a lot of these guys, they talk about family. It's not it's not usually the community as much as it's a family treatment, right? So my dad was, and sometimes you have both. A lot of times you have both bad treatment of family on top of it, and a lot of times the bad treatment is because of Islam, in the sense of like someone leaving Islam, they're treated badly because they were formerly Muslim, right? So a lot of the times it's actually the religion that is still the cause, because these people wouldn't have any issue with them leaving the religion if it wasn't for the fact that the religion itself is not tolerant to people leaving it, and it's not acceptable. It's not considered allowed to leave the religion because you'll go to hell. So we're talking about, to me, this is again a straw man situation. It's a straw man. It's kind of like, picking on the weakest link, picking on what you want to kind of focus on, and not what you want to, not the true issue, right? Because the true issue is, it wouldn't really make sense if someone left Islam because of bad treatment of Muslims, because Islam, I mean, a lot of it is private. Praying 5 times a day, doing your thing, your relationship with God. Maybe you don't even pray 5 times a day. Maybe you just have a relationship with Allah. You read the Quran. Like, a lot of it's private. So why would someone's bad treatment of you cause you to leave that, unless there's something else there? So, not a very good take. I love to talk to this guy and, kind of dig into this a little bit more, because to me, this doesn't add up. It's not really jiving, what he's saying. And hey, Beach, hey, John Stopman, Nim, Chip, Debodo, nice to see all you guys here. Thanks for joining. I'm just looking at the comments now. Hi, Haroon, and hi, A. Jansen. So yeah, this was, I don't know, not a very good take. You guys let me know what you think, but I just thought it was like, kind of like, what's the point of even saying that? It's just, are you trying? The point is, Islam is amazing, and that's the point, I guess. Right? So, but it's a little bit of a dishonesty or cognitive dissonance. Okay, so let's go on to the next thing I wanted to share, which is also not really great. But humanists of Pakistan share this thing. Just days before the auspicious occasion of Eid, the police officials in district Gujranwala in Pakistan, obviously, the police officials have desecrated 53 Ahmadiyya graves. This is a fourth such incident of such a nature, and is part of a growing list of recent desecrations by the Punjab police. On the night between July 6th and 7th, 2 different graveyards were raided by police, accompanied by non-officials, where they desecrated Ahmadiyya graves. So this is just like awful. Like, like, wow. Like, can you imagine that they don't only give people a hard time when they're alive, they're even giving them a hard time when they're gone. It's just like, and then it's the families that have grieved, these people died, and they're coming here and like destroying the graves, and like, what is the point of doing? And yeah, and on top of it, the accusations against the police here, which is like, even more shocking. It's just like awful if that's the case, and this is just terrible. So anyways, those two things aside, I want to jump into the age of Aisha. I added some more slides here and a bit more details that I want to actually present to you guys and go through. So we covered this last week in the live stream as well. Why this topic has become a big issue because of Nupur Sharma and what happened and the big debate. People are arguing that she made a bigoted comment. She actually didn't. She was just being factual about the beliefs of Muslims, at least Sunni Muslims. Most of them believe in young. However, in my opinion, this wasn't really a wise statement to make. It created a lot more problems in the community, and therefore wasn't a good move. Regardless, she had every right to make it. Although I don't think a government official should be getting involved in making such comments. Who is Aisha? Again, these are the slides that Abdullah Gondal originally made. I made some changes to them. We're just going to go through them quickly. Yeah, notice mythology. Thanks for saying that. Hit the like button. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Please do that. Okay, so Aisha bin Abu Bakr, daughter of Abu Bakr. So first caliph of Islam, third wife of Muhammad. So he married Khadija and Sauda before her. Married Muhammad at 6 years old. Okay, we're going to get into that. Is that true? Muhammad died when she was 18, so she was married, meaning consummated marriage was consummated for 9 years. And she narrated a whole bunch of hadith according to the Sunni tradition. Okay. So this is important. Just want to get this out of the way because this always comes up. This always comes up. What is going on here? Are we looking at the historical Muhammad? This is a very important point. We are not looking at the historical Muhammad. Muslims don't believe in a historical Muhammad. They believe in I feel like saying mythological Muhammad. I don't know what the word is, but it's a construction. It's a creation that was created by the hadith narrators. If you want to assume that they were honest and they were truthful and there was no mistakes and everything's accurate, then it would be historical. But we can't say that for sure. All we know is these are oral traditions that have been memorized and passed on, and there's a lot of mistakes in them. Everybody knows that, right? So the reason this matters is because when we talk about this, we have to make sure that we focus on the fact that we're talking about the Sunni perspective. We're talking about what Sunni Muslims, most of them, believe. What age was she really? Okay, we're going to have a clip by Hamza Yusuf. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to see. And was he, you know what? Now, there's some interesting evidence that Abdullah Gondal has actually dug up on his Facebook. He's actually commented about this. We're having a discussion about this. That why is it that if he was, you know, the question is, well, all of his relationships would be primarily with underage women, right? But that's not what we find. What we found is there's only this one example, and it's quite possible that epilepsy actually, because epilepsy does weird things to your sexuality, or it can affect it. It's quite possible. Abdul Gondal found examples of people that became pedophilic. I guess they grew these tendencies over time after having epilepsy. So these things can actually affect your sexuality. And you know, the story of him sleeping with like whatever, so many 9 wives in one night or whatever. If those things are true, then the epilepsy, temporal lobe epilepsy, would explain that. It does weird things to a person, right? So I don't use that word because it's anachronistic. Is that how you say it? It's basically a term that was, you know, created after the fact. We're kind of backdating it. So I prefer not to use that terminology. However, it was definitely wrong marrying a child. And we can say that. And we're going to go and we're going to get into the details as to why that is. Okay. So about her age, in comments is saying there's a study that showed she was 18 when married. Yeah, I'm going to go through that. We'll talk about that. So why is this like super bad? Why do we care? Why is this an issue? Why does that matter? Yeah, according to Beach, this was a good point. I doubt he was, you know what? Seems to be a way to get her dad in his corner. This seems like there's some, you know, family thing going on there. He's trying to make connection with people, and Abu Bakr was one of his biggest supporters. So, you know, sometimes they would marry your daughter. The funny thing is, okay, we'll get to that, but so child marriage. The reason this is so important is because this is an issue that comes up again and again in defense of child marriage. Child marriage is defended because of Muhammad, because Muhammad is a moral epitome. He's a, you know, khairul khalqillah, the best of creation, right? He is the one and only one that lived his life better than anyone else, and we're not allowed to question his life in any way, right? Whatever he did was for the best. So if that's the case, then we have problems, because now you have children today that are being married and are basically suffering because of Islamic injunctions that allow this, or at least interpretation of certain people that they understand it this way. Child marriage. So according to Save the Children, the devastation of child marriage effectively ends a girl's childhood. How? Forced marriage robs a girl of her education and more, replacing lessons learned in the classroom and playing with adult responsibilities, including forced pregnancy well before she's ready. This not only violates her rights, but risks her life, the lives of her children, and the future of her community. Now, the interesting thing is that the ending part of this, the future of the community, it actually probably was done in a way to save the community back then, because the fact that women are physically able to give birth at a young age shows that at one point in time this probably happened, right? That doesn't mean it's ideal. That doesn't mean it's good for the lady or the young woman. By no means. Yes, she may be able to deliver the child, but at what cost? At what cost to her future? At what cost to her, to what happened, right? Anyways, I'm going to continue. Issues of child marriage. The United Nations and other international agencies have declared that child marriage violates human rights and children's rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which I always quote because I think it's actually a fantastic piece of, it's a fantastic charter, states that individuals must enter marriage freely with full consent and must be at full age. So basically, in 1979, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women stated that child marriage is illegal. This is what you call humanity at its best. Humanity moving forward, coming up with rules to protect women, protect children. In this case, the intersection of women and children, which is young girls. A human rights violation, child marriage, directly impacts girls' education, health, psychological well-being, the health of their offspring. It increases the risk for depression, STDs or STIs, cervical cancer, malaria, obstetric fistulas, and maternal mortality. So you can see there's a huge list of issues that come up with child marriage. There is a lot of, anachronistic. Thank you. Anachronistic. That's how you say it. Appreciate it. So we can see that there is actually very practical reasons why we need to be against this. Why we need to say, now the interesting thing is that other Muslims that say she wasn't a child, and I've even been called an Islamophobe once by saying that Muhammad married a child, which is funny. You become an Islamophobe by quoting the Islamic text, but I'm going to show you in the Islamic text that this is, this is not, we're not making this up. Sarah says humanity is better than Islam, that sets no lower limit for marriage. Yeah, the lower limit for marriage, as far as I know in Islam, is basically not for marriage, but for consummation would be puberty, I think, or when she's physically able to bear it, which is not even puberty. May not be puberty, but yeah, that's pretty disturbing. Again, we kind of would expect better because this religion is supposed to be for all times, right? So it should actually protect women. A lot of the times, human beings do stupid things and then they regret it later. For example, I was watching a really funny, beautiful video that, you know what, maybe I can even show you guys, because it was actually an excellent video, and it makes such a good point. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to share the video because I think it's actually worth it, worth watching a little bit of this. 1 second. We won't watch the whole thing, but this video is from Non-Stamp Collector. I'm going to mute my mic so you guys can hear it.
It's a lot worse than we figured. They're going to be stealing from each other, lying, being cruel, even hating each other and killing each other. This whole fall from grace is worse than we expected.
What about haircuts?
Lord?
The hair on the side of their heads and their beards, do they end up cutting that?
Well, I'll check. Yes.
Why did I make the fruit of that tree so deliciously tempting? No, that's not on. I want that banned.
Yes, Lord, a ban on cutting the hair on the side of their head. Moving on, Lord, it seems that this sinful nature messes them up so bad that they actually abuse children in some cases.
Do they wear clothes made of wool and linen woven together?
Yes.
Right, that too. Absolute ban on that.
If we may, can we direct you towards the things we think you need to be equally clear on?
Yeah, I heard you. Killing each other, stealing, sitting on chairs that menstruating women have been sitting on.
Well, those first two, yes. Are you going to prohibit them?
Yes.
Good.
And tattoos as well. No tattoos. I am the Lord.
Lord, you hate oppression and cruelty and stealing just as much as tattoos, right?
Yes.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Okay, so I hope that the point is being made here. It's just he gets into the point a little bit more, but like this is something that should have been clearly and in with no ambiguity banned. Like the things that end up in the Quran, and he gave examples from the Bible, but the things that end up in the Quran, they're like comically stupid examples of things that you don't even need someone to tell you, and they don't even make sense, that they're not even for all times. For example, Muhammad, not Muhammad, Allah telling the companions to leave right away after having a meal at his house because he felt shy to tell you to go home. I mean, really, the type of things you find in the Quran, it's like you couldn't include child marriage in there. It's like protect the women, right? As I once put on Twitter, like, if Muhammad was a mercy to all mankind, shouldn't he be a mercy to little girls as well? I mean, really, supposedly he's a mercy to all mankind, rahmatul lil alameen. He's the best prophet, all that stuff. Anyways, so there are a bunch of actual issues from this, as we said. Bigger risk of sexual and gender-based violence, for sure, because you have a young girl with an old man, typically, in a situation like that. More risk of health complication. Childbirth is the leading cause of death among girls between the age of 15 and 19 in developing countries. Child brides are also at a greater risk of contacting HIV/AIDS. They tend to drop out of school, of course. They have little access to opportunities, such as holding a job outside the home. Of course, I mean, they're basically baby-making machines, right? Now, okay, one more thing. This is an example of a typical issue that happens because a young woman's like hips are not wide enough, right? So what happens is many young women in Africa, I've heard of this happening in Africa a lot, they have this thing called a fistula, and this is a medical condition where they can't hold in basically everything comes out, and it smells bad, and it creates a lot of social dilemma. A lot of them are kicked out of the home. They have to live on their own in little huts, and they're shamed for this. And all of this is no fault of their own. It's because they had a baby too young. Sometimes the baby will die inside as well, and it's awful. Like, there's a lot of it's a terrible. It's just one example of an issue, right? Okay, so this is when you discover that Aisha's age of marriage is 6 and consummation in 9 is stated in the authentic hadith. You get mad, and Muslims getting mad. It's like, what? What's going on here, right? So yeah, as we've mentioned, and one more thing I just want to get into before we get into the actual hadith, because we're going to talk about hadith and scholars and stuff like that. I just want to make it clear to everyone that Islam is not the only reason for child marriage. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's be clear about this. There are multiple reasons. Poverty is a big cause. I mean, I think I have a slide on this later. Poverty is one of the modern reasons, but also cultural reasons. The culture of a community would be a part of that as well. Like, for example, in a community, in a culture where that's allowed, or that child marriage, for example, in like Pakistan, Afghanistan, many Muslim countries, this is an issue. Maybe I should just jump to this slide and then we get into the hadith. Okay, yeah, let's just quickly do that. Okay, I forgot, I do have a slide on this. Okay, so child marriage is a complex issue, many factors. One factor is cultural/religious values. Have I been to Africa? What the heck? Are you saying I have to go to Africa to understand that these issues happen in Africa? We learn from each other online, and we read books, and we don't need to actually go there. This is not like, what the heck? Don't be so defensive now. Anyways, poverty is a big cause, but cultural/religious values are a big cause as well. As you can see here, Lebanese women hold placards as they participate in a march against marriage before the age of 18 in the capital of Beirut. So we have here an example of young women. These are young women, and probably some old women too, that are protesting child marriage. I've read many books. For example, I've watched documentaries. One of the recent ones I watched was Keep Sweet, Hear and Obey, or something, about the FLDS, the fundamentalist Mormon sect that has child marriage. And a lot of these young girls, they leave some of them fell in love with a man that was more similar to their age, but they ended up marrying some freaking grandpa because the prophet married them to a grandpa, like basically grandpa compared to her age, right? And that wasn't like the best thing in their life. They were miserable. And we're gonna wait till you hear what the scholars say. Stop drinking Coca-Cola. Someone's saying stop drinking Coca-Cola, drink tea. That's a good point. This is a Coke Zero, so there's no calories. It's neutral. It's calorie neutral in my body. Okay, just to kind of hit home on this before, and wow, we have someone that Robert Wells used to belong to the original first LDS church. Damn. Okay, so rising cases of child marriage are concerned in Pakistan. Thank God for that, Robert Wells. I'm glad you were able to escape that. That's good. Okay, so rising poverty due to the pandemic has experts worrying about increase in young girls being married off. This is, again, a complex social issue that's connected to culture, that's connected to poverty, and this is happening more and more, right, because of finances. Just to look at the laws quickly. In Afghanistan, child marriages are illegal but widespread. Afghanistan's minimum age of marriage for girls is 16 or 15, well below the internationally recommended standards of 18. But then 16 is still better than 9, okay? Like, it's much better. These unions mainly happen in rural areas, especially among the borders with Pakistan. Okay, I'm not going to get into the alternative view of Aisha's age just yet. Let's go into some of the clips of Yasir Qadhi and all that stuff. Okay. Child marriage should not happen in the 21st century. Absolutely. Okay. Let's see what Yasir Qadhi has to say, and let me know if the sound is okay. I'm going to mute my mic.
Non-Muslims and sometimes even Muslims are perturbed that how come Aisha, our mother, was married at a very young age. And frankly, this is a question that people who study anthropology and intelligent researchers that are non-Muslim never bring up. Because what is happening here is that we are taking our cultural mores, our cultural norms, and then back projecting them onto the Arabian society.
Okay, right away, I have a problem with what he's saying. Anthropologists would not be mentioning this as an issue for the very reason that analyzing the situation in its time and place, they're not going to be anachronistic about it. They're not going to back project our cultural or moral values because they don't believe him as a prophet. They're not following him as a man that is an eternal prophet for all time. Right, Yasir Qadhi? Anthropologists are studying a culture. I mean, there's all sorts of weird shit you find in some cultures. I mean, there's a culture in India that, I mean, very obscure, that, you know, these guys, Reza Aslan interviewed them, they eat brains, which is very dangerous, right? You can, again, get some disease from the proteins in the brain or something. But when an anthropologist is studying this, they're not judging it as for right and wrong. That's usually not what they do, because that's not their job. They're just studying it, right? They're describing it. Whereas a Muslim looking at the life of Muhammad, there is moral value attached to what he does. He's the example for all time. So already we see a big problem. Big problem already. Okay, and we have a super chat from Arabic translated means, how's it going, brother? But verse 33:21 states that Muhammad is an example for all of us. Exactly. Let's continue hearing what he says.
See, the age of marriage is something that has no normative, no standard age. And cultures and ethnicities throughout the centuries had different ages of marriage. Shakespeare wrote his famous Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, before we go any further, I'm just going to say, he's kind of still, I don't think he's being totally honest here. The reason I say that is because we do have evidence of other cultures and the ages that they tend to have marriages. And we know that many cultures, ancient cultures, had the ages of marriage closer to like 13, 14, 15, which is a typical age of puberty. 9 years old is not common. It's not a common thing. It's like, yes, he's right, there's no standard, but typically the standard use is usually puberty. But anyways, we're not going based on what other cultures do. We're just going to discuss. Let's see what he has to say.
You know that the first actors that played Romeo and Juliet were how old? 15 and 14 years old. The boy was 15, the girl was 14. For Shakespeare's time, now if we had a Romeo and Juliet play, the content and the love scenes and the romance, we would project it onto an 18 or 19 and a 19 or 17-year-old.
I want to say something. I don't know if I should say it. Let's see what he says before I jump in.
You know, we would say, oh, this is a young man and a young woman. In our age, in 2014, Romeo and Juliet, we think of like a 19-year-old with his 17-year-old sweetheart or 18-year-old sweetheart. That's our version. Well, when Shakespeare wrote the play, it was for a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old, right? Only 500 years ago. In that age and time, people matured faster. They were...
Okay, he jumped on the second point. Okay, before you get on the second point, what he's saying about Romeo and Juliet, it's pretty funny. It's actually hilarious to me, because do we not have love stories of teenagers? Don't we have? I don't watch Bollywood, but I'm guessing many teens fall in. I mean, this is a pretty common thing for teens. Like even Stranger Things. Okay, there we go. An updated cultural reference. I'm not a boomer. I'm proud of myself. I came up with a modern example. I was just like racking my brain. What's a modern example? Stranger Things. There's like love between the kids in Stranger Things, right? Like I'm pretty sure they're like 13, 14, whatever, right? They're not 18, 19 like he's saying. What is he talking about? He's trying to say that we don't talk about like young, but like Yasir Qadhi, it's not a 12-year-old with a 60-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 6-year-old with a 6. There's no Romeo and Juliet with a baby, with an old man coming to get the baby. That's not right. It's like, what is he saying? Smidley says there's a huge difference between two teens and a 50-year-old powerful man versus a little child. Yes, exactly. Imagine Romeo 59 years old and Juliet 14 years old. Exactly. I mean, it's not even 14. I mean, that's even the worst thing. I mean, let's be real. Like, and John Strawman, you linked to Wikipedia on Romeo and Juliet characters. Okay, I'm guessing there's a bunch of examples of young Romeo and Juliets as well, right? Arabic translated memes. Is he equating Shakespeare, peace be upon him, with Muhammad, FBI be upon him? That's a good one. Yeah, this is a good point. Okay, we're jumping into the next point. Let's get into the next point, right? Okay.
We're not treated like little kids in the bodies of adults. Adolescence didn't exist in that regard. When you became a young man or woman, biologically mature, you were treated like a young man and a woman. And therefore, culture changes. In America, 100 years ago.
Okay, so let's just stop there before he gets into the cultural references thing. He's saying that in, pre-modern societies, when you became, when you hit puberty, you became an adult, basically, right? It kind of makes you wonder why Muhammad, when he was 9 years old, didn't get married. Right? I mean, if that's the case, like what he's saying is when you became an adult at 12 years old, how come Muhammad didn't get married at 12 years old? Did he only hit puberty at 50 in his 50s, whatever, 53? How is it that this is kind of like weird what he's saying, right? And is it a good thing? Is it a good thing? Is it a good thing? Is it a good thing to treat little kids like adults? Maybe some people would say it's a good thing to have a 12-year-old woman, young woman, little girl, actually, behave like an adult. I would say the evidence is against you, Yasir Qadhi. The evidence is that it is not good for her well-being to be treated like an adult at that young age. It's better for her development to play, to be a child. And you know what? We didn't get into the Hadith yet. Let's just look at the Hadith quickly and see what happened to Aisha. Okay, so okay, here we go. If you can see the screen, Aisha used to play with dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my friends would play with me. When the Messenger of Allah entered, they would hide from him, and he would call them to join me, and they would play with me. So it's saying that basically, even the Hadith narrative, Bukhari. Oh, sorry, is this Bukhari? Adab al-Mufrad. I don't know who wrote this book. The Hadith narrator will quote his Hadith said stroking a child's head, meaning she was a child. He's calling Aisha a child. And in this other Hadith in Bukhari, it says she used to play with dolls. So this is what children are supposed to do. Children are supposed to grow, take the time, play with dolls, have fun, and not make babies. Like I don't think anyone, including Yasir Qadhi, would want his own daughter at that age having children. Okay.
Young ladies, 100 years ago, young ladies would get married regularly at the age of 13 and 14. That is why, until very recently, literally like a few decades ago, in some states, including my own state of Tennessee, where I currently live, the law said that you have to be 14 years old to get married. Recently, they changed that, updated that. But when the laws were written 100 years ago, what was the age they put for marriage? 14. Now you tell me, today, if somebody marries a 14-year-old, he's going to go to jail.
Again, typically, you don't have a 14-year-old marrying a grandpa, okay? Like, let's be real. And this thing he's talking about, again, nobody's saying it's a good thing that they were married at 14, that's a law, that's the minimum age of marriage, 14. Are we saying this is a good thing? Like, is that what he's saying? I think he's saying it's a good thing. Well, let's see what he says.
But their own grandmothers and grandfathers, forget their own. Let me be totally blunt here. My grandmother, may Allah Azza wa Jal bless her with Jannah, she's passed away. She's the only grandparent I ever met of mine. My grandmother in rural India, back in the 1920s, she got married at the age of 13. My grandmother. And I knew her as a very righteous, as a very good, Muslim lady. She never complained or she was irritated her whole life. My father married me when I was 13. She had a great grandfather. That's my grandfather. She's a great husband. She had lots of children. That was the cultural norms. Why are you defending?
Okay, so now we're getting into Mr. Mansplaining here, saying, oh, she had a good life. Her life was amazing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure your grandma, who got married at 13 and was having kids from a young age, had such a lovely life. I don't know your grandma, but I can tell you most 13-year-old women would not appreciate a life like that. And I know from, again, I've heard interviews of women that have been in cults where they had to get married at a young age. You're saying she didn't complain. Did she even have the right to complain? Did she even have the choice to complain? Did she even have the ability to voice her concerns about such a situation? And if she was happy, do you not think that it's possible that she was making do and that she would even be happier if you gave her an actual childhood, gave her the chance to study, gave her the chance to do something with her life? I mean, I don't know his grandma. I'm just speaking in general here, not him. The point is that you make it sound like this was like the best thing ever. Would you marry your daughter at 30? Like, these people, they talk like this, but they'll never do the same shit themselves for their own daughters. If they do, I mean, I would be surprised. I would be really surprised for an American imam like Yasir Qadhi to marry his daughter at 13 or 9 or whatever. Even though Ali Dawa said he would do that and he would marry his daughter off at this young age, I don't believe it. I don't believe the words. I think they're just saying that because Muhammad did it and they have to justify it. Now, he actually goes later on and says, I don't think you should do it today, right? He says that. And it's just, it's, I'm just reading the comments to see if there's anything here. So the point is that he's trying to paint this off as a good thing. And I can't imagine that by any standard, this was a good thing. This was, what they did back then. That doesn't make it a good thing for young women. And we've already shown all of the risks and issues with child marriage, right? Like, we've talked about this. I mean, there's like unanimous consensus among, all the international organization that this is a bad thing. Yasir Qadhi is like, hey, my grandma is great. She loved it. She's happy, like, really? Are you sure?
Defending Aisha when Aisha was the happiest wife in the whole world. Who are you to get irritated when Aisha herself was the luckiest, most fortunate woman in the whole world? She wasn't complaining. She wasn't feeling anything bad. So in that day and age, puberty, intellect.
Yeah, right. She wasn't complaining. She was happy. She was the happiest woman. He says she's the happiest woman in the world. How is she, like, are you even hearing yourself? She was the happiest woman in the world. She literally complained that every time Muhammad saw an attractive woman, she knew he would marry her. There was like insane jealousy. There was a verse in the Quran that threatened all the wives that Allah would replace them with better wives. There was a month where he boycotted his wives, meaning he wasn't sleeping with them for a full month. There was, conspiracies going on between Aisha and I think Sauda, where they were, making issues with Zainab. And like, do you really think this was an ideal situation for his wives? Like, how can you with a straight face say she was? I mean, it's true that his child bride was his favorite wife. It does say that. And she had other benefits being his favorite wife that the other wives didn't have, right? She had some special status. But tell me something. If this was truly such a great marriage, why is it that when the issue of Ifk happened, right? The story of Ifk, which is when she was accused of adultery. There was rumors going around that she cheated on Muhammad because she was left in the desert behind. No one noticed. Muhammad didn't notice. She was left behind. And then this young man carried her back into town, and everyone was gossiping that, So if this is the case, why is it that nobody believed her? Why is it that Muhammad didn't believe her? Muhammad asked Ali, he asked a bunch of people to come and talk about Aisha and tell him what they thought about her. And that's where we get some of the hadith that are in this presentation. If I can find, let me see, there's one in here. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on one second. Okay, here we go. This is an example of one of the hadith. I'll make it bigger so you can see. So in this hadith, it actually says, this is the story, an incident of Ifk that happened, right? That Aisha was crying so much because she was upset. The one on the left side. And she was so upset and so sad that this was happening to her, that she was accused of this. And then what happened was Muhammad was going around asking people, oh, Barira, what do you think about Aisha, right? And then Barira said, oh, I've never seen anything at fault at her except she's a girl of immature age and sometimes sleeps and leaves the dough for the goats to eat. Like a very innocent thing to do, right? And this was going on, and he's asking, basically he doesn't know what to do. He called in Ali ibn Abi Talib, he called in Osama bin Zayd, and he was asking them, should he divorce his wife? Does this sound like an ideal marriage to you? Your wife, your child bride, is accused of adultery through rumors. She denies it vehemently. She says, I didn't do it. And you don't even trust her enough to take her word for it. You're going around asking everyone, hey, did she cheat on me? What do you think? What do you think, Ali? What do you think, Osama? What do you think, Barira? Right? What do you think, this person and that person? And then eventually he decided she was innocent. So So Allah so revealed the verse to defend her, blah, blah, blah. As you know the story, she's innocent, even though Shias don't think she's innocent. How is this seriously, like there's another hadith where, not in this presentation, but there's another hadith where she was punched in the chest. He was sneaking out at night doing his weird thing. It's like, okay, I'm just going to read this comment before I jump on the next. Hassan Arwan, the incident of Ifk related in the Quran is very revealing. God seriously blows a fuse and basically has a hissy fit of anger. Yeah, exactly, right? And then I was just about to say the hadith about physical abuse where he snuck out in the middle of the night. I mean, listen to how weird this is. He snuck out in the middle of the night to go to Khadija's grave. I mean, it's such a weird thing to do. But anyways, and when he did this, she followed him. Because, I mean, just imagine your husband is sneaking out in the middle of the night. You're wondering what the heck is going on. And what do? You sneak out. You just watch him. He comes back home and he hits her in the chest. Why isn't, is this a loving marriage? Shouldn't he have just told her, hey, Aisha, I'm sorry to have disturbed your sleep. I'm just going out to, I don't know what he was going out to do. Pay my respects to the grave or something. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of weird to go in the middle of the night, but whatever, that's his thing or whatever. Is that how you treat a loving marriage? I mean, he wasn't loving. I don't know if you can call that loving. There's more examples too, where he basically, again, talking about how she was a favorite wife, he made a deal with Sauda to take away her night. Now, when I say make a deal, it's not like they were equal trading partners and she had any choice in the matter. She had basically two choices. She can be divorced or she can give away her night, right? Out of the 1 in 9 nights she got, even that was taken away from her and given to Aisha instead, because he wanted to spend it with Aisha instead. So he made a deal, and Allah came down and said, yeah, you can make a deal with whatever wife you want. And so she got extra nights, right? This is the type of man that you're claiming this was his favorite wife. Really? Like, doesn't seem like it to me. I mean, yes, it was favorite wife, but doesn't seem like this was a happy marriage by any means. I actually made a video on this, talking about how it's not like Aisha had a choice. Like, let's be honest. Like, this was the best she could get, okay? She was relatively more powerful and had a lot. She did get benefits out of marrying, you know, this guy that became, you know, the so-called leader of all of Arabia, right? The spiritual and military leader of like a big chunk of Arabia. So she did have benefits from that, being his wife. No doubt she was better off than a lot of other women at that time. But we're not talking about that part. We're talking about the part that where there was bad treatment between her and Muhammad, how Muhammad could have treated her better. I mean, even the whole 1 in 9 thing, how is that beneficial for her, right? Can we actually look at some hadith? Because there's some relevant hadith here before we go on. Super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Order of the Dragon. Why do Muslims revere Muhammad so much when the same Muslims were responsible for eliminating his entire family, i.e. Omar, Usman, Ali, Hussein, Fatima? Yeah, so I don't think the Sunnis tend to talk about these things. That's the thing. The Sunni Muslims don't talk about, you know, the miscarriage of Fatima, and they don't talk about the misery that Muhammad's daughter Fatima went through after he died. How they claim there was hadith saying that Muhammad doesn't leave any inheritance. So basically, Ali and Fatima had like a miserable time after Muhammad died. It's true. And some of the, you know, grandsons were actually, you know, a lot of bad things happened. Anyways, the point is the battle between Ali and Aisha, these things are not talked about. Sunni Muslim scholars don't like to talk about these things because they don't want to talk about these things. It's fitna in the Muslim community. So we don't, you know. Yeah, Aisha also said God hastens to fulfill your desires when he got verse 3350, giving him unlimited wives. Exactly. It's funny how they actually reference that, right? The incident of ifk is basically, I don't know why it's called ifk. I don't know what that word means, but the incident where, I think ifk means slander, where she was slandered by, you know, they claim she was slandered. She didn't cheat on him, but basically she was accused of adultery. So that's called the incident of ifk. All right. Oh yeah, I wanted to go through some of the hadith. So these are relevant. So I think it's important to show them. So I kind of lost my train of thought. Let me
complaining. She wasn't feeling anything bad. So
okay, so yeah, we're talking about how there wasn't a lot of freedom for her and choice, right? So let's just quickly go through some of the hadith. I went through some of these last week as well, but let's just quickly go through them. Cause of marriage, a dream come true. So Aisha reported from Allah's Messenger. This is Aisha herself that gave this hadith in Sahih Muslim. I saw you in a dream for 3 nights. Muhammad saying this. I saw you in a dream for 3 nights when an angel brought you to me in a silk cloth, and he said, here's your wife. I'm going to remove the cloth from your face. Lo, it was you. So I said, if this is from Allah, let him carry it out. So he was seeing dreams about the daughter, the 6-year-old daughter, supposedly 6-year-old daughter of his best friend. He's going to his best friend's house, and he was seeing her, like in his dreams. And then this hadith on the right says the exact same thing. Okay? Just imagine how weird this is. If your friend comes to your house, your little daughter is there, and you're like, I had a dream about her, and be like, yo, get the hell out of my house right now. Don't want none of that weirdness in my house. But yeah, that's basically what happened here, right? Okay. And this hadith is about the marrying of a young lady to an elderly man. So the Prophet asked Abu Bakr for Aisha's hand in marriage. Abu Bakr said, I am your brother. So it's interesting and weird, again, that this was narrated. I'm sometimes surprised at what Muslims narrate. The Prophet said, you are my brother in Allah's religion in his book, but she is lawful for me to marry. So he insisted. And this is used as evidence that a young lady can marry an old man. And just imagine he actually said no initially, which is Surprising. And in this example, again, the Prophet married her when she was 6 years old and consummated when she was 9, and she remained with him for 9 years. This is Aisha again narrating in Sahih Bukhari. And again, it's making it clear that she had nothing to do with this. This was all her dad and Muhammad organizing this and doing this. And she died when he was 18. He died when she was 18 years old. Okay. So most of these hadith are coming to Hisham, and these are all in Bukhari and Muslim, right? But we have other references, as I've already shown, that she was a child. And in this hadith, in brackets, basically in Fathul Bari, which is a commentary on Bukhari, it says the playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at the age of she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. So she wasn't yet at the age of puberty. I've already given you the story here, and the one on the right shows that she was watching people playing in the mosque and saying you should understand the keenness of young girls to play. So she's calling herself a young girl, okay? Not an old lady, young girl. And same thing over here. And in this hadith, it's talking about she was on a swing playing with her playmates, and then she was called, and basically then she was given to the Prophet, and she was engaged, and so on and so forth, right? This is just showing again that she was handed over when she was 9. Now, interestingly, this all seems to be a very exceptional circumstance that didn't apply to the other companions. So, for example, Muhammad's daughters were in the late teens and 20s when Muhammad married a 6-year-old child. Zainab, for example, Ruqayya, Kulthum, and Aisha. Aisha is the exception here. So his daughters were married older, but he married Aisha young, right? So it's narrated here that Abdullah bin Buraida said that Abu Bakr and Omar proposed marriage to Fatima, the daughter of Muhammad, but the Messenger of Allah said she is young. Then Ali proposed marriage to her and he married her to him. So Ali was quite young compared to Abu Bakr and Omar, right? It's kind of funny, isn't it? Like Abu Bakr was 50 plus, Omar was 40 plus. Muhammad refused them because he was too young, and there's some disagreement about her age, but perhaps she was about the same age as Aisha, or maybe a little bit older. Okay, and then there's some Shia references that discuss how old she was. Not really going to go into that too much, but that's if you're really interested how old she was. Okay, not going to get into this topic just yet. Let's go back to this guy. Let's go back to our favorite holes in the Quran, Sheikh.
That day and age, puberty, intellectual maturity in the hot Arabian climate, in the desert life, young children age faster because you have to.
It's so funny that all of this stuff happens, but apparently you don't see any young men getting married. You don't see anybody else marrying a 9-year-old except apparently Muhammad. All these excuses just for one man.
To take on responsibilities. So Aisha's age in her time would be our equivalent of whatever, 16, 17. And I have no doubt that if things proceed in another 100 years, it will be illegal to marry an 18 or 17-year-old. And I have no doubt because we are progressing.
What is he going on about? In a few years, it'll be illegal to marry an 18 or 19-year-old? Is there any evidence for this claim, Yasir Qadhi? Or are you just making a slippery slope fallacy? That's not what's happening. No, nobody's doing that. We understand that emotional development happens at a certain age. And yes, marriage is less common nowadays, but nobody's saying it's going to happen. Nobody except you is saying it's not going to be allowed until 25 or something. Come on.
Or whatever, regressing in that regard, the minimum marriage age will be rising as it has risen in the last 600 years. This is a human fact. This is an undeniable fact.
Okay. This is a good comment I just want to highlight by A. Jansen. Girls nowadays live in hot climates. Are they fair game too? Messianic apostate, you're saying that Yasir Qadhi destroys Islam every time I hear him speak. To be fair, this is common. Like, the things he's saying are very common. I'm sure anyone that was Muslim like me has heard these things over and over again. Like, these are not new arguments. Like, these are not, I mean, he has like his next level creativity when it comes to things like zombies and stuff. But like, the Muslim community that is listening to him and not being critical of what he's saying, they're just eating up what he's saying. They're not questioning. And the ones that do question, they are, you know, probably they don't get the opportunity to really question it, right? And to bring these up, right? Aisha was not Superman. The sun did it. Yeah, the sun made her old fast, right? Yeah, and why the young boys don't age faster? The hot sun only makes girls. There was another funny comment by Black Angel. Aisha was a banana. Yeah, she's a banana. She ripened faster than the sun. Like, oh. Yasir Qadhi, what are you saying, man? only the girls are bananas, right? Oh my goodness. Okay. Muslim apologists often act like as soon as you start menstruating, you're ready to have sex. But sex is very risky for young pre-adolescent girls because their bodies are not grown. Yeah, exactly. If you rewind the live stream to the beginning, or anyone that's watching later, if you go to the live stream in the beginning, you'll see that this is, yeah, this was covered. Muslims, yeah, basically hot sun plus baby equals old lady. The sun made girls grow up faster. Messianic apostate. I agree that Yasir Qadhi is making unoriginal common arguments, but I can't get over how I think that Qadhi just believes Islam more. I hear him open his mouth. Yeah, exactly.
Western culture itself has continued to raise the age of marriage. So for us to now criticize Arabian culture 14 centuries ago, you begin with criticizing your own grandmother and grandfather.
Yes, sir. We just did that. We just criticized it. We just said it's not ideal, but they did it. But we've evolved better values, better morals. We care about people more now. Isn't that true?
And your own ancestors of the Middle Ages. That is really not a very rational thing to do. Different time, different culture, different place. Bottom line, the worst enemies of the Prophet ﷺ in his lifetime, they tried everything to smear him. They did not find it problematic that he married Aisha. It was a norm of the culture, and it wasn't a problem at all in their society and culture. Even his worst enemies, not a single comment, because this is the norm. Aisha herself is a happy wife. She is a loving wife. She has so many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ. She clearly has not been traumatized. Why are you guys 14 centuries later so traumatized? So think about it and be a little bit more mature, a little bit more anthropological, a little bit more historical. There's absolutely nothing wrong. And oh, Muslims, don't apologize for the truth and don't distort the.
Yeah, so again, he's going on about Aisha was so happy. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to respond to one more comment that he made, which was about... I'm getting distracted, sorry, with the live comments and stuff. Yeah, whether it was a norm in the 7th century is irrelevant. And what I wanted to say, let me just rewind for a second so I don't forget my point.
About it. Why are you guys society and culture? Even as a norm.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, okie dokie. So, here, okay, I'm just going to quickly go through some comments because I'm getting distracted by the comments. So why, can I ask why you delete open Christian comments on your page? It's very strange. I'm not sure what you mean by that. You mean in the live chat? Do you mean on my YouTube? So anyone that has more than, let's say, 10,000 subscribers, they always get accused of deleting comments. Do you really think I have time for that? Like, honestly, do I really care what stupid comments people put? I mean, I don't have time for that. Like, I mean, I care about comments, but I don't have time to go and censor like YouTube comments. I'm a fan of free speech. I like having conversations. I don't like spam. If someone spams the same thing over and over again, then yes, I'm gonna probably block them from the channel. I do that very, very rarely, right? Like sometimes people will put like Jesus is God on every single video or something. Yeah, they'll be removed. But like that's only if I notice it. I don't know what you mean by that. And yeah, sometimes maybe the moderators might block people that are spamming. I don't know what you're referring to. But anyhow, Zayed Tamil, why don't you reply to him face to face live debate instead of answering the recorded video of him? Miskeen like me don't have access to Yasir Qadhi. That's the problem. I don't have the ability to have a live conversation with him. It would be amazing. It'd be a good conversation, I think, but it's just not going to happen, right? I mean, I think that's expecting too much. And to be honest, I did have one opportunity, which was he was speaking at a No Doubt conference in Toronto, and some of my friends invited me to go. But when I asked them, I'm like, can I have one-on-one time with him? No, you can go and sit and listen to the lecture like everybody else and put your hand up and ask questions. I'm like, I'm like beyond this point, right? Like I'm beyond the point of him and his, basically strawmanned, misconstrued version of atheism he wants to present to the Muslim community. Like I have more specific questions to ask. And it's not even like I have questions. I want to have a conversation. Like I've already made up my mind. But like, yeah, conversations with people that like him are very difficult to arrange, especially when he's a celebrity, right? He's a famous dude. So it's not going to happen. But I have triggered Yasir Qadhi very much, just to let you know. Yasir Qadhi has been very much triggered. I made a video called Yasir Qadhi Has Doubts in Islam. Some Muslim dude sent it to him. He got really mad and he made this scathing post on Facebook saying these murtads and blah 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 and blah blah blah. Like he's got, like, despite the fact that he's typically very calm and collected in how he conveys himself and how he portrays himself in public, I got under his skin by making a video where I showed that he, clips of him saying he had doubts, he doesn't know how to deal with these issues, and he did not like it. He was very mad. He was very butthurt. So he made this ridiculous. And the funny thing is that was the first time he ever blocked me from commenting on his page. I actually made like a response. I posted on my Medium, and he was just like, I was blown away that he actually was blocking and hiding people's responses. Right? I mean, this was not, to me, I didn't expect this from a man of his stature. I really didn't. I did not expect him to do this, but this is what he did. And I can just show you. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I can just show you right now. He made this post, and I made a response right here. Abdullah Gondal made a response. Imtiaz Shams made a response. Jimmy London, Bashir Khan, Muhammad Luqman, Haris Sultan, and these are just some of them, right? And I made a post. This was my response right here. He is saying you reject Islam because your rationality cannot comprehend these aspects of Islam that are supra-rational and irrational, right? And this is routinely what murtads end up doing, and the process becomes some of the most psychologically traumatized individuals you'll ever meet. Every aspect of their lives revolves around them attempting to disprove Islam or wishing to achieve notoriety by constantly announcing to the world the rejection of the faith they once believed in. Then he says, deaf, dumb, and blind, these murtads will not return unless Allah wills so. And then that is why, as all of us know, the arrogance that exudes from them is palpable. So it's interesting that he made this post and he's talking about arrogance and this and that. And he was there blocking our responses. So it's clear, and this was my response. It's a little bit long. I'm not going to read it all. I mean, you can see this was a good response. This was a good response from Abdullah Gondal. And Imtiaz Shams had a very good response as well. I mean, these are like these are good responses, but the guy is not interested. So when you're saying, why don't you have a live debate with him? Like, the dude is himself cutting us off. He talks about us. I mean, this one post was about us. He was literally posting about us. This is about ex-Muslims. This is about murtads, as he calls it. And he was censoring on the same post responses to him, which were not disrespectful. They were very fair responses from the heart, and every single one of us got blocked one by one. Like just like, so like he's saying here, he's a liar. I mean, to be honest, it does feel like that, right? Because, and yeah, as this guy says, reminiscence. Famous sheikhs usually avoid debates because they don't want to make enemies of Islam famous. So fanboys running around saying, why don't Muslims debate? So and so, it's really useless. Yeah, it's like a lose-lose situation here. It's not possible to win for them. It's not possible to win because we know he knows, even he knows that if he talks to us, what's going to happen is bad. It's because I feel like, you know, he's confident that he understands that there's not good responses, you know, there's not good responses to these things, right? All right, let me continue the video. I think we dealt with that. Did we deal with? No, we didn't. 1 second. Okay, so yeah, I forgot to deal with the comment about what he was saying. Let me just rewind it one more time, because we did actually stop for quite a bit now and got on a tangent.
Of the culture, and it wasn't a problem at all in their society and culture. Even his worst enemies, not a single comment, because this is the norm. Aisha herself is a happy wife. She is a loving wife. She has so many ahadith of the Prophet.
Oh my, I'd love to show her. I'd love to bring up some of those happy wife hadith about her scraping dried scraping dried semen off Muhammad's clothes. Is that what happy wives do? Like, happy child brides? Now, he has a point in that there is, I mean, we don't have references to people that were, you know, criticizing Muhammad for this very action for like a long period of time. And why is that? Well, probably because, again, this was, I think, a bit exceptional, as I showed you, that the puberty was typically the, you know, the what they went by. But this was within the norms of their society. We can just say that, right? Like it was on the lower end for sure, you know, as we've seen most, even for his companions. But like, it was still within the acceptable range, or especially for someone of his stature, meaning, you know, they can get away with more than like common people can, right? And even today, you see that as well. You see like rich and famous people can get away with a lot more than, and powerful people can get away with a lot more. And we've seen that with Epstein and others. These guys are involved in a lot of bad things, like, and they get away with it. So, but does that mean it was okay, Yasir Qadhi, because nobody mentioned it, nobody complained about it, so it's okay? Are you saying that like because his enemies at that time didn't mention it, it's almost like this entire argument is cultural relativism from the beginning to the end, even though he's claiming the highest moral standards coming from Muhammad. So unfortunately, you know what that means. There's only one way to go, and it's backwards. We go backwards to the 7th century, and those are those norms are the correct ones, because back then it was okay. Now it's not okay. But at the same time, he's going to contradict himself and say it's not okay today, or you shouldn't do it today, and we shouldn't bring child marriage back, which is interesting, right? Let's let him talk a little bit more, and maybe I can go on a bit more after that.
She clearly has not been traumatized. Why are you guys 14 centuries later so traumatized?
Yeah, we did actually mention this. The verses from Surah Tahrim where Aisha and Hafsa are threatened with divorce don't reflect a very happy marriage, right? So depending on which story you prefer, either he was mad about honey smelling bad, or whether they were mad about him sleeping with a slave woman, Maria. So there's two different stories there. But yeah, the point is that it wasn't a happy marriage. It's dishonest to say it was a happy marriage. And what we're trying to say here is that just because it wasn't considered a problem doesn't mean it's not a problem. And we've given objective evidence. I've shown objective evidence as to why this is a bad thing. Child marriage is a bad thing. It is a bad thing, and there's many issues that come out of it, right? And this is like objectively bad. Objectively bad. It doesn't matter what culture you're in, what time period you're in. These things are objectively bad.
So think about it and be a little bit more mature, a little bit more anthropological, a little bit.
But Muhammad should have been more mature and not married a child. That is maturity, comes from maturity, not to marry children. Why are you telling us to be mature? You tell your prophet to be mature. First he be mature, then we be mature, okay?
More historical. There's absolutely nothing wrong. And all Muslims, don't apologize for the truth and don't distort the truth. There are Muslims that try to deny this. Oh, he didn't marry Aisha as a young girl. Ya akhi, look, that's not the way forward. We don't lie for the sake of our religion. Astaghfirullah. We have the truth. We're not going to cover up the truth if people find it embarrassing. This is the reality. Deal with it. Our Prophet ﷺ married a young girl. and it was fine for the time. I am not saying we need to resurrect this age in our time, because times have changed.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. What is so different about our times today that we should not resurrect this age? Do you see how he put it? We should not resurrect this age. We should not marry children, right? Is that what he's trying to say? It's funny how he puts it. We should not resurrect this age. I mean, we should not resurrect the age of Islam, like going back to the 7th century. But he means we should not resurrect this age of marriage, meaning it's dead. Leave it in the past. It's done. Now, if that's the case, then why is he justifying it? All of this justification, is it because it was more hot back then? Because people didn't live as long? I mean, these are the common excuses. People didn't live as long. Yeah, the sun made the little girls grow up faster. People died young. Okay, whoa. I don't think he actually mentioned that. People die young. But let's just go to the slide where we can see that, yeah, they were all old men. Like, what? They were not little kids. The men were old, and they lived at least until the 60s, right? Oh, my. Oh, my. Anyways, we're almost done. Let's finish it.
And there's no problem in our time. My own Sheikh Ibn Uthaymin, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was of the opinion that we should have a minimal age of marriage, 15, 16, whatever the call. He didn't specify an age, but he said, yes, we should have a minimal age that society now is used to and accustomed.
So we should have a minimum age, but he didn't specify the minimum age. What does that mean? The minimum age is probably 9 then, right? It's going to go back to that, right? Oh dear. Do you see how man-made Islam is? Literally man-made. Scholars, Sheikh Uthaymin says, yeah, we should have a minimum age of marriage. Well, no shit. Well, that's what we've been saying, right? For the last, how long? That's what all these countries are doing by making it. That's what the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and all of these constitutions that we discussed, all of these things are about the same topic, which is there should be a minimum age of marriage, and it should be consent. You should not be bearing children. It's rape, right? Sleeping with a child. God damn, man.
That's not a problem. But for us to find something worthy of criticism that's different culture, different time, different place, the Sharia has allowed a spectrum. This is the point. Islamic law, it allows a spectrum. In societies and cultures where younger marriages happen and it's common, let it happen. In modern times, I will be the first person to say that an 11...
Let it happen. Okay, that's just sad. He just said, okay, I'm just going to rewind it. Let's hear him again.
Allows a spectrum. In societies and cultures where younger marriages happen and it's common, let it happen.
Okay, dude. I think you need to go back and be educated as to why we have now banned child marriage. What do you mean, let it happen if it happens? Don't you see like all of the harm that comes out of it? Do you not care about women, about children, about young women? You don't care about these things? You don't care about young women? Just let it happen. Oh, just let it happen. Again, mansplaining. Let it happen. Yeah. I don't care. It's not my daughter. Right? Just let it happen. It's not happening to my daughter, so just let it happen.
In modern times, I will be the first person to say that an 11-year-old in modern Arabia or Yemen or Pakistan is not ready for marriage. I'll be the...
Okay, so he just said an 11-year-old in Yemen, Pakistan, or Saudi Arabia is not ready for marriage. But he just also said if it's happening in a culture that happens, then it's okay. Really good comment here from Hassan Radwan. If he's saying Muhammad's marriage to a young girl was only for its time and we shouldn't follow it today, then what else shouldn't Muslims follow? Is it decided on the basis of kafir morality? I mean, that's what it feels like, because the morality, the pressure is on and people realize these things are indefensible, right? It does appear to be the case, right? So yeah, that's a good point to think about, and it's a good point. I mean, he just contradicted himself. He just mentioned a bunch of cultures where they do child marriage, and then he says It's not okay.
The first 11-year-old in modern times, I will be the first person to say that an 11-year-old in modern Arabia or Yemen or Pakistan is not ready for marriage. I'll be the first to say this. I'll be the first to say we need to have laws that are in place that the young lady is now mentally capable of being a married lady. She's physically capable. No problem.
He's saying, okay, sorry, I forgot to mute, so it might have been a bit of echo. He's saying, I don't know what he's saying. He's contradicting himself so much. Arabic translated mean says, but sunny Yemen girls go up faster. Brother, the sun has changed, right? Forget global warming. There's no more, the sun now, it doesn't have the same effect on bananas and young girls that it did before. Before, yeah, they got matured faster from the hot sun. Now today, Yanni, I don't know. It's not happening anymore. It must be the global warming or no, the climate change issue. The climate change is affecting the I mean, actually, if you look at science, puberty is happening even younger today. I mean, there's a comment there about the puberty happening younger, right? In modern times, girls' wombs ripen more slowly because of air conditioning. Yeah, it must be the air conditioning because we don't have the hot sun. Like, seriously, I mean, it's so comical what it's saying. It's just like, it's such a joke.
But for our Prophet ﷺ, it's a different time, different place. Everybody's used to it. Aisha herself was prepared for it. So who are we to get in the middle of their issue that they didn't even have any issue about? And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Okay. Maybe the enemies, Ishaq Ibrahim says, maybe the enemies said it, that they were killed. That's why nobody hears about it. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, that's not really a viable take because we have a lot of other things they said, right? We know in the Quran that he's called a madman, he's called a poet, he's called this, he's called that. So this is not a viable take that they did say it and it was not mentioned. Again, it was common back then, right? So this is not surprising if it wasn't the case. I have another video I want to go to. Just give me a sec. Alrighty, so let me bring it up. Actually, let me quickly go to the comments. Yeah, so I just want to kind of point this out, Legend. The amount of obfuscation, deflection, and lies is astounding. Stop the cap and stop the stop the taqiyya. So I don't really like to call it taqiyya because he's, if you look at this video, I have a strong feeling. I mean, I can't tell for sure. Let me see. Can I tell? No, I can't tell. It's cut. But like, this is a video of him. I can 99 from the way he's talking, you can tell that this video is him speaking to a Muslim audience. Like, why would you do taqiyya to Muslims for your own? Like, let's say you're a Sunni Muslim imam. Why would you do taqiyya to your own community that already believes in Islam? You see that this taqiyya meme is overused, and it's like you can't just call taqiyya. Sometimes there's a much better explanation than just cognitive dissonance, dishonesty, misrepresenting, trying to whitewash the religion. Whitewash, I don't know if that's the right word, but basically water down the religion, make it more, friendly or whatever, right? It's not like there's a conspiracy to like I mean, if you usually you say taqiyya when someone's talking to non-Muslims and they're dishonest about it. And the taqiyya thing happens to protect yourself from being, killed or something, right? That's not what's happening here. Hassan Radwan says it's not taqiyya. He believes what he's saying. I hate the way taqiyya is thrown around. It demonizes Muslims in general. That's exactly it. It's not taqiyya. It's like it is what it is, right? It is trying to water down the poor behavior, but that's the wrong word to use. Yeah. Okay. Can you ever stop trying to make it sound like a 6-year-old consented to her own marriage? It wasn't traumatized just because it wasn't in the doctrine. Exactly. He's trying to make it sound like she consented to it, which she didn't. She wasn't necessarily as happy as she could have been, even if she did show some signs of happiness according to what we know. And what was the weird way? We shouldn't resurrect this age. I love how he put that. That's like the most twisted way of saying we shouldn't have child marriage. Because he doesn't want to say child marriage because Muhammad married a child then. He doesn't want to admit that, right? Self-delusion is another way of putting it. And Nim Glace was saying we shouldn't criticize Yasir Qadhi because he's walking a tightrope. Honestly, if he's putting out content that deserves to be criticized, he's gonna get criticized. I mean, he's saying things that he's defending child marriage in a sense. He's defending Muhammad, and he does need to be called out. I really do believe he needs to be called out. I mean, that's for him to worry about his Muslim community, his income stream that he's getting from them, and his respect and whatever. That's his problem, not mine. My issue is to make it make it clear that this is nonsense, right? He definitely doesn't believe it. Yasir Qadhi is doing this for career reasons. Yeah, I would say so. Alrighty, let's continue. I have another video. Yasir Qadhi is gone. Now we have a very soft-spoken Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, and let us see what he has to say. By the way, I missed. Just let's take a break for 1 second. Oh yeah, here we go. Hassan Radwan. We should definitely critique Yasir Qadhi. He defends a very supremacist form of Islam. I agree. Even though he has this sort of reformist ways, he is very much defending Salafism, and he quotes Ibn Taymiyyah and stuff, right? Exactly. He's on YouTube and the internet. If he can't take the heat, he needs to get out the kitchen. Yeah, he's actually doing a lot of damage, in a sense. He's doing some good too, but anyways. Actually, before we get to this, just as a side, no, I'll cover that later. That's fine. Let's continue. Yeah, Hamza, the glorified white convert. All right, let's hear what Sheikh Hamza Yusuf has to say.
Still very young. There's khilaf about the age, but in al-Bukhari,
Khilaf means difference of opinion. And sorry for the corny nasheed in the background. This is obviously a re-upload, right?
Hadith from Aisha radiallahu anha says that she was 6. If you look in the history books and look at the year she died and how old she was, some of the ulama say that she actually was probably 12. Some say 15, and those are reports. They're just considered weak, which is why he's saying there that the على التحقيقي, that means the ulama حقق المسألة, and this is what they think is the soundest position. So there are differences of opinion. One of the things today, obviously, because this is such a strange thing for modern people, there have been several papers and even booklets written trying to prove those other opinions. Now, those opinions, like I said, are there, that she was 12, that she was 15 when she married the Prophet ﷺ, when the actual contract, and then 15 when it was consummated. But if you try to apply a modern template onto this period of time, you'll get a lot of problems, because this was a different world. And unless
there we go. This was a different world. Why am I loving what he's saying? Does he not realize that he's also just disqualified Islam from the modern world? By eliminating the behavior and the actions of Muhammad, do you see that they've checkmated themselves? They've trapped themselves in a corner. Actually, Muhammad put himself in a corner. I mean, because you can't have it both ways. Either you justify what he did or you don't. And if you don't, he's basically, what he's saying can be used against him. That in this case, there's no need to follow Islam in today's age, right? As Hassan Radwan was saying, well, if this didn't apply, what else doesn't apply?
you recognize that, you will run into problems in the seerah. The Prophet ﷺ was born into a very different world than we are living in now.
The Prophet was born to a really different world that we're living from now. Hassan Radwan, Islam is for all times except when we say so. Yeah, exactly.
Human nature doesn't change, but norms change. Norms, the a'raf of people change. In our urf, this would not be acceptable. And this is a masala urfiyya. It's a question of urf. It's not, and this is why nobody.
So I know it's hard to understand what he's saying. I don't know if he's purposely doing this to make it sound like intellectual or something. He's saying it's an urf, which means it's a custom. It's like the culture or something. He's trying to say this is based on the culture. It's relative from culture to culture.
Found this strange. Even when Washington Irving, who wrote his book on the Prophet, the famous people who know Washington Irving, he wrote a book on the Prophet ﷺ, and one of the he wrote the Alhambra, Tales of the Alhambra, and he wrote Rip Van Winkle. People know him from that. But he wrote a life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and in that life, he mentions that he married Aisha and consummated the marriage at 9. And then he says, but women of the desert are very precocious. So this is the 1830s.
So again, he's trying to say how this wasn't an issue. This was people believe. It's back to the anthropological argument again. People that are describing non-Muslims, especially describing what Muhammad did back then without any intention to malign, especially, they're just describing it. They're just going to describe it as it and say, yeah, well, that's what happened back then. Like, like whatever. Then they're not making an implication that it was okay today. And like he's going even stronger on the side of this is not something we should do today. It was different back then. It was a different world back then. I'm really loving that he's saying this. I don't know if he realizes just how bad it is for him. And about the age thing, we'll quickly go through that in a bit.
An American that does not use it as a means of attacking the Prophet ﷺ, because in 1830 America, 12-year-olds, it was quite normal for a girl of 12 or 13 to get married. In America today, there are states, and there's somebody from Alabama here. I'm not making any jokes about Alabama, but there are states where it's permissible to marry a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old with consent, adult consent. But people used to get married when the period came. A girl was biologically capable of having children. Now, if we look also.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just going to pause for a second. Arabic translated memes makes a good point. What about the Quran is enough at all times? What about the verse about divorcing a non-menstrual girl? This is a good point. This is in the slides as well. I didn't get to this yet, and we didn't get to the alternative view of. Let's quickly talk about the alternative view. So, alternative view here is that Aisha was actually older. This is coming actually very popular in modern day, which is to me a form of reform. They're trying to like reverse calculate her age. Unfortunately, Yasir Qadhi didn't talk about it in this clip, but he said in other clips that this is mainly people they feel uncomfortable with her age, so that's why they're doing this. And this is why they're trying to reverse or backdate or say that, oh, this happened. And basically you have to throw out all of these hadith about child, doll playing, playing around. I was immature girl, I had playmates, I was on a swing, and I was doing my hair and all these things. You have to throw all that out or reinterpret it somehow to say she was freaking 19 now. I don't know. Anyways, this is becoming more popular. I know some other people like this view, but whatever. It's not convincing, and you'll see Jonathan Brown's going to say the same thing. And we're going to talk about the Quran. Let me see if I can find the slide. Where's the slide? Give me 1 second. Oh man, do I lose the slide? Okay, there it is. All right. I'm sorry for that. I got lost trying to find the slide. So, child marriage in the Quran. Oh, you believe when you marry believing women and divorce them before you have touched them, and there's not for you any waiting period to count concerning them. So provide for them and give for them a gracious release. So just to explain what's talking about here, it's saying that when you divorce a woman in Islam, if you divorce a woman, it has to be that if you slept with her, if you had sex with her and you've divorced her, you say divorce to her. As a man, you say divorce to her. You say the word divorce, and it's over. You did 3 times or whatever. There's a waiting period, an iddah period, if you had sex with her. If you didn't, there's no iddah period. So now we have a verse in the Quran that's explaining what happens if they don't have a period, because you're counting periods, right? And as for those who no longer expect menstruation among your women, and if doubt, then the period is 3 months. And so this was the main verse, right? And as for those who have not yet menstruated, and as for those who are pregnant and the term is until they give birth and whatever. So this previous verse is explaining the context. I added this. I forgot about that. Sorry. Then the actual 65 verse, I think it's 65:4. 65:4, easy to remember. 65:4, I think. Yes, 65:4. Yeah. So this verse right here in yellow is 65:4. It's saying that, chapter on how to divorce immature girls. So if you basically have to wait, if there's a waiting period applicable because you slept with her, but she didn't have a period yet. So what does that mean? She didn't have a period yet. Just think about it. She didn't have a period yet means she hasn't hit the age of puberty, right? And even if she had a period, that does not mean necessarily that she is ready to do this, to have sex. She's not ready to have sex. She may not be ready to have sex just because she had a period. It's not as simple as having a period, guys and girls, right? Muslims. And here are the tafasir that describe what this means, this surah, this ayah. It's talking about 65:4. And as for those who have not yet menstruated, because of the young age, the period shall be 3 months. Asbab al-Nuzul also says this refers to young women. Basically, this companion with a long name, Qais al-Ansari, said, "O Messenger of Allah, what is the waiting period of the woman who does not menstruate and the woman who has not menstruated yet?" So he was asking, and this is when this verse came about. Ibn Kathir says the same for the young who have not yet reached the age of menstruation. So the apologist's response is this is talking about women that are too old to menstruate. But as you can see from the tafsir, again, if you're a Sunni Muslim, not a Quranist, a Sunni Muslim, you will be looking at the Hadith, you'll be looking at the tafsir, you'll be looking at the full, what the scholars say and everything. It's not just the Quran alone. The Quran alone can be ambiguous at times, and if you're a Quranist, you have a way out of this. You can say this doesn't mean that, it means something else. But if you're Sunni Muslim, you're basically stuck because it's clearly there. And yeah, actually, this is interesting. Muhammad hijab also agrees this means prepubescent girls. And there's a clip of him where he basically says the Quran puts no minimum age for marriage. He says that, and he's actually trying to say it. The funny thing is he's trying to sort of debunk Quranists, but it ends up being like a self goal score. Like he's ending up, by doing this, he's making the Quran look worse than it is. What he's trying to say, you basically need, you need to also take the Hadith, not just the Quran. But again, it does end up being a very much goal scoring, self scoring goal thing. Hold on, I see if I can find the video quickly to show you. Shoot, it's someone else's. It must be on someone else's channel because I don't see it here. Age of marriage. Okay, I don't have it handy right now, but that's fine. You guys can find it if you want. Anyways, yeah, the point is he agrees with that as well. And Arabic translated means hooray, the Quran's not for the time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. All the commentators say it's young girls, everyone from Muqatil ibn Sulaiman to Marif al-Quran. Yeah, I guess that is pretty much the case, right? Okay, yeah, we know the video. Yeah, I did show it in the last live stream. Okay. Anyhow, so let's go back to this guy. We're done with this guy. And we're back to him.
It's important to note that Aisha radiallahu anha is by no means an ordinary person. And she is one of the most extraordinary women that has ever lived. Anybody that does a study of her life will conclude that not only was she a genius, clearly. I mean, you can look at a person. It's very strange for people that study American history. You have to ask, how is it possible that all these men were living at the same time? John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, very unusual people to be living at the same time, because we don't have that. So, but if you look at the Prophet ﷺ, the people around him, and that he was given as companions, it's beyond belief. It's so extraordinary. I mean, it's not beyond belief. Amantu billahi wa rasulihi, but it is extraordinary. And so the Prophet ﷺ.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was gonna expand on that. Shias would strongly disagree. His companions were pretty bad. I don't know what he's talking about. They're the type of I mean, they did like some horrible, cruel things. I mean, like burning people alive and like do we really need to say how amazing they were? Like these guys were basically I don't know if I should say warmongers, but I mean, basically like that's what these guys, Khalid bin Walid and Omar and Abu Bakr, and they wanted to fight all of these Arab tribes until they would pay the jizya, not the jizya, the zakat, right? When Muhammad died, they all became apostates because they didn't want to pay this money, right? So yeah, these guys were not great. I mean, I wish I could. I'd say not even sheep. Even some of them were very opportunistic. You know what I mean? Opportunistic people, not even necessarily sheep. Not even necessarily.
His marrying Aisha is very significant. She transmits a third of the religion, according to in fiqh. She gives us so many masail. She solved many of the problems.
The funny thing is, I'm laughing because he said she transmitted so many hadith, but he was kind of like, shrugging off the hadith about her being 9, which was transmitted by her. So if you want to, the same Muslims that want to brag, the same Muslims that want to brag that Aisha narrated so many hadith, they also have to admit that she's 9 because that some of the hadith include the fact that she was 6 when she was married and 9 when it was consummated. That's her hadith, right? So you can't have it both ways again,
She was also a brilliant poet, rawiya of poetry. She knew all the Jahadi poetry, and she was raised in the Prophet ﷺ's house. So she would have learned that in the.
She was literally raised in his house, as in like child groomed. You know what I mean? Like she was raised, meaning she grew up in his house because she was a child. He got me there.
In the Prophet ﷺ's house. She was an Nasaba, she was a genealogist, she knew the lineage of the Arabs. She was also somebody who was very, very independent in her being. She had.
That's true. She was so independent that she started a war against Ali, the cousin and the son-in-law of the Prophet, the wife of the Prophet. She's so independent. She started a war that she ultimately lost, and she ended up being captured as war booty by Ali. You just imagine imagine how messed up that is. Within a lifetime of Muhammad dying, his wife is captured as war booty. Of course, no one took it as war booty because that was his wife, ex-wife. Widow. But I mean, just imagine like how messed up that is. And ultimately, that was like, in a way, that was to her downfall, what she did, right? Starting this battle. But anyways, that's a mess. That's the human situation there, right? It's just a big mess. It's a big mess. It's just that's what you find with human man-made religions. I mean, that's all we have is mess.
Had her own opinions about things, and she's not suffer fools lightly. She's a stunning, extraordinary woman in human history. And so, this idea, this attack on the Prophet ﷺ today is really quite, it's just an odious, vile, contemptible smear of his personality, of his honor. And none of us should be in any way, shape, or form embarrassed by this, but it needs to be understood within the context of the time, the place, and the people. Now, I asked the chief rabbi of one of the chief rabbis of Israel at a conference I was at in Europe. I asked him in the Torah, in the Talmud, which is their kind of book of narrations and fiqh, and they have all their masail in there. And I asked him, what is the youngest that you can marry a child for an adult to marry? And he said, there's difference of opinion. They're like us, 3 rabbis, 4 opinions. And we have that too, 3 imams, 4 opinions, because a lot of imams will have 2 opinions on something, especially Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He has a lot of masail where they don't know the tarjih. They'll have two opinions, so they'll literally narrate them as two opinions. So he told me, he said 6 is generally the earliest, and then
Okay, I'm having a really tough time believing him here. I don't believe him. I'm sorry to say I don't believe him, and the reason why I don't believe him is because I did some research on this before, and again, I didn't dig deep, but at least on Wikipedia, they give an age that's much more than 6. 6 sounds a little bit too convenient. A little bit too convenient that he said 6. What's more common, I think the minimum they said on Wikipedia for Judaism was 13 or something. Basically, age of puberty is what they mostly go by. So yeah, right. Like really 6 years old. Like they said 6, and that's the exact age that Aisha got. Come on, like who are you fooling, man? Who's the name? What's this guy's name? Let's hear what the guy's name is.
and I said, so he told me, he said 6, and he said, which is their kind of book of narrations and fiqh, and they have all their masail in there. And I asked him, what is the youngest that you can marry a child? It's just an ode to personality of his honor, and none of us should be in any way, shape, or form embarrassed by this, but it needs to be understood within the context of the time, the place, and the people. Now, I asked the chief rabbi of one of the chief rabbis of Israel at a conference I was at in Europe. I asked him in the Torah.
He didn't mention the name. He went from chief rabbi of Israel to one of the chief rabbis. And I mean, yes, we've been saying this since the beginning, that we don't care what other cultures, like that's not the point. We have objective science to show us why this is harmful. Even if it is 6 in Judaism, that's not whatever. Like it's the religion's older than Islam. I wouldn't even be surprised. But like, it's just funny. It's just funny that it was exactly 6. He didn't give any names. I mean, these are what you call red flags. When somebody is lying, this is the type of way they say things. Like, yeah, I was talking to this guy, and actually not that guy, but another guy. And I asked him, what's the age? What's the age? It was 6. Like, really? Like, it's just a little bit too convenient. It's just a little bit too freaking convenient, even if it is true, which I highly doubt it. But anyways,
Torah, in the Talmud, which is their kind of book of narrations and fiqh, and they have all their masail in there. And I asked him, what is the youngest that you can marry a child for an adult to marry? And he said, there's difference of opinion. They're like us, 3 rabbis, 4 opinions. And we have that too, 3 imams, 4 opinions, because a lot of imams will have 2 opinions on something, especially Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He has a lot of masail where they don't know the tarjih. They'll have 2 opinions, so they'll literally narrate them as 2 opinions.
I love the dig at Ahmed bin Hanbal. These guys don't like Hanbalis, right? Because they're very like literal and stuff. That's funny.
So he told me, he said 6 is generally the earliest. And then I said, and what about consummation? He said 9. And then I said, well, what do they do now? He said,
do you believe this? He said 6 and 9. Okay, Hamza Yusuf is taking us for fools now. Okay, that's just a little bit too much. Okay, I was like a little bit skeptical, but now I'm like full blown, dude is lying. Dude is lying. There's just no way. There's no way the guy said you can marry them at 6 and consummate it at 9. That's bullshit. Yeah, maybe it was a rabbit. It was a rabbit. He was on LSD and he saw a rabbit that was talking to him. It's like he thought it was a rabbi. The rabbit told him 6 and 9. Yo, like cut the cap, man. No rabbi told you this. This is bull. This is for sure a lie. This for sure a lie.
He said, well, most rabbis, they'd have to be at least 13 before they would do the marriage. So again, it's urf. So if you're looking at the Jewish tradition itself, they have the same laws in their tradition. And they know that this is a pre-modern norm. So even though the modern society, I would not personally be happy for anybody in the West to marry a girl that was under 15, you know.
Oh, snap. I feel like we need to play that again.
So even though the modern society, I would not personally be happy for anybody in the West to marry a girl that was under 15. You know.
Okay, so now it depends if she's in the West. This Islam is like constantly changing, and like it's like the time was different back then. The West is different. The hot sun is different. I don't. This is just comical, you know. At times like this, when I go through videos like this, and you know, we're actually, I love the fact that you guys are live with me here, and you know, we're live, and we're actually helping each other. Some of the comments here are like really helping the live stream and making it better. I really appreciate you guys and what you're saying, and you know, it's actually it's like a, you know, the energy level it goes up at times like this after watching stuff like this. And I always think back on how people ask me, you know, why don't you become Muslim again, or is there a chance to become, and I'm just like, do you guys don't even know. Like, someone's asking me, you don't even realize how broken Islam is. It's so dismantled, broken, fallen apart. It's in pieces. The pieces are in pieces. The holes are not even holes. It's like the pieces are holes. Like the holes are like everywhere. Like it's just like, it's not even Swiss cheese. It's like the holes in the Swiss cheese is what you have left now. That's how bad it is. There's no way. There's just no way this is from God. There's no way. This entire religion is man-made from the beginning to the end. The entire thing, even if you believe the Quran's from God, the entire thing is man-made, basically calculations and assumptions and interpretations. There's no way. There's just no way to make this work anymore. You can't put the genie back in the lamp. It's just so done. So done. And this one topic alone, you know, shows you just how bad it is. It's like asking if you can put toothpaste back in the tube. Exactly. Right? It's just like, thank you for the super chat, Ultra. Okay, let's finish the video.
No, I don't think it would be appropriate in our environment or conditions. But it, you know, there are girls now in America that are 12, 13 having children. And
Go again about America. Dude, America is not the end all and hear all of everything. We don't worship America, despite what you guys think. Okay, America has its problems. We get that. I mean, just look at the recent news, right? Yeah, like I think people are starting to realize that what he's saying is just a little bit too convenient for words. I just feel sad that he's lying like this. He's just lying to these people. It just makes me mad. Okay, Nim Glace, Abdullah, you were Muslim. How did you justify this crap then? A lot of the crap I justified was by listening to these guys and not being critical about it. I didn't have my critical hat on. You know, a lot of times, unless somebody points out to you that this is something that you need to question, you don't question it, because Hamza Yusuf, like in another video, I don't know, I just randomly found this one. I don't know why, but in another video he's like crying and he's like, I don't need to justify Muhammad, what he did to Aisha, you know, marrying Aisha. I think I even responded. I did a response video to that actually. And it's just like, yeah, this is, you guys have to justify. I believe God told him to do this. You know, God showed him this, whatever. So why do I need to justify this? I don't need to justify this, right? That's kind of like how I was, and I wasn't critical. It's, you know, the floodgates open up when you start questioning, when you start thinking about it, when you start looking into it, you start to realize, holy crap, this is like pretty bad. And thank you guys all for the likes, appreciate it. If you're new here, please do subscribe. I forgot to point out that this is a new channel. It's been running for a few years now, but you know, I still have a bunch of subscribers that haven't moved over. Even yesterday, last week, I had someone mention to me, I didn't know you had a new channel. I was like, I've been uploading on this channel for a long time now. So yeah. You stay dumb. One of the comments says, you stay dumb because the Muslim way of thinking is do not question anything, do not criticize anything, do not freely think for yourself. Yeah, basically, you know, I see this even more so among certain communities more than others. So for example, in the Desi sort of Sufi community, Sufi / non-Salafi, people that follow madhabs, when I bring up some of the points, they always, almost instantly, they come up with, let's go talk to the Maulana. Let's go talk to Maulvi Saab at the masjid, right? Maulvi Saab, who doesn't know the first thing about any of this stuff. He has no clue about these issues. He's going to help me. He's going to help you. Pff, give me a break. But this is what happens. Like they don't, they're like, yeah, it kind of sounds like bad what you're saying, but yeah, the sheikh will have an answer for you. And that's it. They're done. They don't even care. They just like accept it like that. And it's just whatever, right? They don't want to dig any deeper. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to think about it. It is what it is. So that's how it was for me too. Did. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been muted, and then there's two different mute buttons on here, and I apologize for that. Oh Jesus. Okay, what I was saying, I said Jesus. My takia came out. I'm actually a Christian. I'm saying Jesus, but that's the popular vernacular of my culture that I grew up in. So I say Jesus and oh my God and stuff like that. Sorry, that doesn't mean I believe in Jesus or God or whatever. This is like embarrassing. Sorry. What I was saying was no. He's talking about, yeah, it's Allah's image. We're talking about young girls and guys having sex, like premarital sex or whatever. Nobody's saying this is a good thing. It's not a good thing if you ask me. I'm not in public health, but I can tell you, I've read some books on this topic, and it's not a good thing if you're not emotionally and physically mature. My kids, I would highly encourage them to delay having sex until until they understand what they're getting into. They're ready for the consequences, potential consequences, having a child and whatever, right? There needs to be, some proper commitment between the couple. They need to be like a proper, stable relationship, because you don't want them breaking up and having kids and abortions and all of these things. You don't want that, right? So there needs to be some. So, and if you ask Hamza Yusuf, is that a good thing, what you're saying? Clearly, he's going to say that's not a good thing, but he's saying this is a good thing in Muhammad's case. Like, again, you're having your cake and eating it too. You have your so-called rabbi that said 6 and 9, and now you're trying to say that these guys are snake oil salesmen. Like, does anyone not see that now? Like, does everyone see that? These are snake oil salesmen. They are coming up with any sort of obfuscating the issue, the basically trying to make it, you know, all these like arguments about why it's okay, but half of the things they're saying they themselves are not okay with. He wouldn't let his child get married even, not just sex, not he wouldn't even let his own child, his own daughter get married. Yet he's trying to say like as if this is like, yeah, this is what's happening nowadays, like as if this makes it okay. That's the unspoken thing he's trying to say, that it's okay because of this. So there was a super chat. I'm just gonna okay, I almost forgot the super chat. So let's okay, let's take a look at the super chat and the comments. America, beautiful comment from Camso. America is not receiving anything from God. It's a man-made ideology. Exactly. You guys are claiming you have it from God, right? John Stopman saying you went up from 25.7 to 26K subscribers. Yay, yes, it's going well. It's getting there. Hassan Arwan, when I was a Muslim, I used to put difficult issues in a box called God will explain later. My faith in the whole enabled me to give a free pass to difficult issues. That's exactly what happened to one of my friends too, that when I was leaving Islam, I was talking to him about these issues. And then he said, okay, look, I can answer some of your questions, but like the other ones, I have a leap of faith box. That's what he did. Same as like how Hassan said it. It was like, yeah, I basically have faith overall in Islam and Muhammad. So these things I can't explain, I'm just gonna. And I asked him, I said, okay, what if I come up with something else that I can? Do you want to talk about? He's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. So he was willing to help me out and explain to me why he thinks that this was actually bad and whatnot. But like the things that why I was wrong, I mean, about my doubts in Islam, but he didn't want to continue the conversation because he was done with it. He'd made peace with it, and he was like, okay, now I'm done. I'm just not. I don't want to think about it anymore. Islam thrives on ignorance and lack of understanding of the Arabic and lack of access to information. Yeah, those are some of the issues, right? Okay, super chat here. I think the Sassanids at the time had the minimum age at 12, but the Byzantines had the minimum age at 14, but 9 was completely unheard of. Yeah, it was not common, but I think again it was within the range. It was a lower end for sure, right? And which is why he got away with it. Excuse me. Savali Goswami, thank you for the kind comment. What a journey. How far you've grown from your first video, Abdullah. You're such an asset to the national world. Yeah, thank you so much. It's so kind of you. And he said that while I was talking when I was muted. Muted. Sorry. I mean, I was muted for quite a while. Oh dear. Okay, yeah. You're 53-year-old ugly guy. Okay. Sorry guys for the mute. I'm just going through all the comments that were like, is it a gin in your mic? Oh dear. Okay. Jabril got me. Yeah, he squeezed me like a ketchup tag. Oh, how I wish we could do the next series. We need to do the epileptic prophet response, but usually Abdullah Gondal is not available on the weekend, and I'm only available on the weekend. So sound is back, please rewind. Okay. Yeah, did you guys I didn't realize did you guys not hear what Hamza Yusuf had to say? Hamza Yusuf basically said that okay, let me do it again just in case.
So even though the modern society, I would not personally be happy for anybody in the West to marry a girl that was under 15. You know, I don't think it would be appropriate in our environment or conditions. But there are girls now in America that are 12, 13 having children, and they're having sex at 10 now. So
Why does he have okay, now I figured out why the mute problem happened. I have the same shortcut set up in my streaming software and StreamYard. Why does he have a big smile on his face when he's talking about this? It's such a weird look. Like, do you guys see how like creepy this looks? Like, what? You're smiling while you're talking about this, like you're some like.
I don't think it would be appropriate in our environment or conditions. But there are girls now in America that are 12, 13 having children, and they're having sex at 10 now. So there's a book by Robert Epstein called The Case Against Adolescence, and he's arguing that you need to start treating young people more like adults because they really are adults, and it's treating them like children that causes all this adolescent behavior. And
Oh my goodness. Again, trying to make kids into adults. Can you guys leave kids alone, please? Like, seriously? Can you just leave leave our damn kids and let them be kids? We don't want kids to be adults, man. Life is freaking horrible enough and painful enough as it is. Let them enjoy their childhood. Let them have some fun in life. Let them, do some shit and like not have to worry about responsibilities. God, I hate this like oh man. I don't like to yeah, not kids, just little girls. Leave like specifically little girls are focusing on, right? And this I hate to say this, but like, he sounds like a predator. It's true. The things he's saying is like it's like you're trying. On one hand, he's saying Islam is, shouldn't do this thing in today's age. That day was different. Now he's going on about all these things that are happening today as if it's a justification. Make up your mind, dude. If you think it's bad, it's bad. Then why are you using this whataboutery? If it's not bad, yeah, and he said the book was written by Epstein. I think that's a different Epstein, not the same Epstein. Oh dear. Oh man. Let kids be kids. Yeah, and he's obviously over exaggerating the situation. This is not I don't think this is that common. But anyways, maybe it is. I don't know. Whatever. I don't have time to look it up, and I don't want to like boil you guys by Google that. You guys can Google that if you want and see if this is actually the case.
he has a lot of social science to back up his views. People forget also the 50, 60 years ago in the United States, it was quite common for
Again, he's justifying it. I'm just going to read some comments. Alzia said, sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Alizia, exactly. He's condemning it and then trying to find cases to justify it by telling people to treat 6-year-olds as adults. This is exactly what's happening, right? It's like, yo, what? Like, yeah, he said so many books to justify child marriages. Creepy. Exactly. It's like, what are you saying, man? Like, make up your mind.
girls 14 to get married. For people that know William Durant's work, Muriel Durant is his wife. He married her when he was, I think, in his early 30s, and she was, I think, 13 years old. And she became a world-class historian under his tutelage and co-wrote that book, The Story of Civilization, which I think is still in print. So
are you justifying child grooming so we can get nice books? Dude, I'm just gonna rewind what he said because it's as Hassan Radwan said, it's a scattergun approach, hoping one of the things he says sticks. I'm just going to rewind. I hate this background music. I hate it. I hate when they do this. I want to listen to but it's not only Islamic channels. Sometimes they put music on regular channels too. I just want to hear the guy talk. Like if I'm coming to hear a lecture, I don't want to hear in the background. It's annoying, right? But let me just I'm just gonna rewind what he just said because it literally sounds like he's justifying pedophilia. Like that's exactly what it sounded like. Just let me rewind so I'm not being unfair.
Muriel Durant is his wife. He married her when he was, I think, in his early 30s, and she was, I think, 13 years old. And she became a world-class historian under his tutelage.
Okay, he's definitely justifying pedophilia now. Hamza Yusuf has now become a pedophilia apologist, like literally justifying pedophilia. He just said this 30-year-old guy married a 13-year-old and she became a will. Look at the big smile on his face. Like, this guy belongs in the FLDS, seriously. Like, this is like I want to show you guys something I read because it's like a counterpoint counterpoint to his stupidity. It's this nonsense. Okay? Excuse me. I want to show you guys something. This guy, I read about this guy in one of the books I'm reading. I forgot which book. Anyways, Laszlo Polga, the man who raised 3 child prodigies, not 3 child wives. Guys, read this. Child prodigies meaning his kids, not his wives. Okay, get it straight, Hamza Yusuf. This guy was a researcher from Hungary who studied intelligence, had a fascination with understanding geniuses. This was on the book on grit. The book is called Grit. Anyways, so what he did was he raised his kids from a very young age to become masters of chess. This is one example. Susan Polga, second daughter, Sophia Polga, and each daughter consecutively became better and better. So first daughter was a top ranked player. The second daughter became the 6th top female chess player. I don't know why chess matters male and female, but it seems to be a difference there. But anyways, the third daughter became the best female chess player in history. And he's not sleeping with her. Okay. This is not his wife. This is his daughter. If this is a strong enough counterpoint to make the point that you don't need to marry children to have I mean, like, what the hell is going on here? What am I hearing? I wasn't expecting this. I didn't even listen to this whole video before doing this presentation because I was like, yeah, he's gonna say some things, but like what he's saying is super, super bad now. He's justifying a marriage to a child because that's what his prophet did. After saying you don't need to marry, this is not applicable anymore. We don't do this anymore. Now this old dude, I mean, it's not even as old as Muhammad. He was 30, he said. Married a 13-year-old, again, not as young as, again. The situation is not even as extreme as Muhammad. But you can't justify this shit, dude. You cannot justify child marriage. Why are you justifying it? Why are you being a pedo man? Like, this is bad.
And co-wrote that book, The Story of Civilization, which I think is still in print. So
he says this should not be done in this day and age, and then in the same breath he says to justify it in this day and age. Frankly, I have more respect for hardline Salafis who say it as it is. Exactly. What is this nonsense?
even in our own culture, we do have that in our past, but not.
Checkmate, Peters. I gotta fix my shortcut here because every time I press the shortcut to mute, it's muting the wrong one. Give me a second to just fix this. Hotkeys. I'm gonna delete this. Okay, there. Okay, so it's not gonna happen anymore now. Okay, good. Yeah, checkmate. Like literally checkmate, right? How can a Greek person whose ancestors with Aristotle and Plato stoops to such lows? I know. It's just like, oh man, I don't think he hears himself. This is like so bad. Oh man, oh dear. Like this is awful.
In our present, and that's why it's, for some people, that's a little difficult. Anyway, I elaborated on that just because it is an issue that does come up. But I think it's very important to recognize that Aisha radiallahu anhu, by merely reading the hadith with Aisha, you will come very quickly to recognize that this was not a little girl. This was a very dynamic, mature, young woman who stood her own ground with the Prophet ﷺ himself, disagreed with.
Yeah, like a young girl had to stand her own ground against a grown-up man, according to your, thinking, which was justified. Like, is that how it should be? Shouldn't you marry a woman that's your age or like closer to your age, that at least has reached the age of consent? Nope, there's no concept of consent back then, right?
With him on more than one occasion. If you want to know the level of her erudition, for those who know Arabic, the Hadith of Zara will show you the type of erudition.
Yeah, Hamza Yusuf is a teacher. Yeah, this comments are really good. A 6-year-old woman. Yeah, exactly. It's a 6-year-old girl, not a woman. She wasn't a woman at 6. Give me a break. When you surround yourself with psychopaths and yes men, you're unable to see the absurdity of what you're saying. That's exactly true. And this is a great comment. This one, authentically superficial, said, yeah, she stood her ground and he beat her in the chest. Yeah, at least one example we have of that, right? And even her father hit her. She was one hadith where she had Muhammad on her lap and her dad hit her.
Iyad wrote a commentary on that book that was published in Morocco.
Okay, that's the end of that. And we do need to end off the stream because we're getting to the end here. 2 hours. Okay. XXWLZXX. I'm not sure what is that, like a Roman numeral or something? I don't know. Anyways, thanks for your super chat again. $5. I guess that's Australian money. Australia. I have been in the Dawah scene for a while and I've yet to meet a single Muslim who doesn't meet the criticisms of Islam with endless whataboutism. Yeah, I guess if you're a believer, you have to come up with some way of justifying what you believe in, right? And continue to hold on to it, because how else would you stay Muslim, right? I'm just gonna quickly look at the slides and just see if I missed anything. No, I didn't. It looks like we went through everything. That's cool. Thank you guys for who donated and for showing up as well, and for the super chats and Arabic translated memes. Thanks for the memes. I used one of your memes today in the presentation. This one right here. If you guys haven't seen Arabic translated memes, xmuslimmemes.com. Check that out. He has some good stuff on there. A lot of good content. Yeah, and Aisha said that believing women were beaten green. That was one of the comments she made as well. That was awful. Actually, I wanted to share something else which I forgot to comment on. Oh wait, it's a long link. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Yeah, as an aside, there was a couple of things that I wanted to kind of point out. This was one of them. This was an interesting documentary that I watched. This is a sad situation that's happening where, I mean, it happened. It might still be happening. Actually, yeah, this is recent. This came out just a while ago. Saudi children left behind. It's a story of these young men that have been, I guess women too, but they give it in the movie. It's men. So this guy, his dad came to America, had sex with his mom, and then ran away and left him behind and never went back to see him, never spoke to him, never called him, didn't want anything to do with him. He tried to go to Saudi to meet the guy, and unfortunately, he didn't, like his dad didn't want to see him. He did meet his cousin. He managed to find his cousin, but it's just like, yeah, it's, anyways, Zara, thank you for the super chat as well. Super sticker, I mean. Did you check Zara's hadith? I'm not sure which hadith that is. I need to look that up. Okay, you made that name when you were a kid. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, this was a great conversation. Hassan Radwan, whataboutism is a 6th pillar of Islam. Yeah, exactly. I would tag his college since they have YouTube channels. You mean like Zaytuna? Yeah, I don't want to poke the beaver too much, whatever you call it. Poke the what's the word? Poke the dog, fox. This is an animal. I don't want to poke them. Porcupine. I don't want to poke him too much because, I prefer that this content stays up. Who gives these guys visas? Yeah, the culture is really bad because these guys, they have this sort of like entitlement. They come here, they lie to these women, they marry them, and then the government is actually fully pays for them to come and study, right? When you watch the documentary, you'll see they actually come to America and study free of charge, and then they just ditch not even wives, the girlfriends or whatever. They ditch them and they abandon them. And there's even this like little kid here. This little kid wants to meet his dad. He's abandoned as well, right? It's sad, man. I'm not saying this is poking the bear. Thank you. This is not unique, obviously, only to Saudis, but like this was a big issue and ended up in the Saudi news and stuff, right? It was like, I'm not gonna ruin the documentary, but they ended up in Saudi. It became an issue, right? Because they made a blog. So then what happened was the blog got some news and ended up in some of the, and it's funny listening to them justify it. It's so stupid. Like when you hear these sheikhs like justifying, it's like the problem is not exclusive to Saudis. It happens to Saudis. Like, give me a break. Anyways, it's worth watching. What else I want to show? Oh yeah, this was interesting as well. Ilhan Omar was booed at a Minnesota Somali concert. She was booed because she's not that popular in the Muslim community. And the reason why was because she speaks more about Palestine than she does about Somalia, right? So, you know, this is a very Muslim issue. The Palestine thing, it's become a very Muslim issue, right? Very, you know, if you want to like get the Muslim community to like you, you always talk about Palestine, right? But like she doesn't talk about her own community, which is Somalia, right? And I know you can't read that; it's too tiny. But anyways, that was kind of funny that this happened to her. She's kind of her community is feeling like she let them down. So yeah, we're obviously seeing that this is not. I don't know if she's doing it for show or if she's actually just like loves Palestine for some reason. I mean, Palestine is a social issue that some people care about, but like it's weird that as an American, that's like the most important thing, a Somali American, and you don't talk about. Yeah, she does talk about LGBT as well, which I think is a good thing, but it's weird that she doesn't. Oh, you think that's what's happening here? Well, interestingly, it says in the article. Let me read this. Yeah. Okay. So the article in particular claims it's because many Somalis, it says, had not used her seat to advance U.S.-Somali ties. Instead, she made Palestinian issue a cornerstone of her congressional activism. So this article in particular is explaining, like this is an op-ed in the Washington Post. Right? It's linking to the Washington Post and the Hill, that this is actually the issue here. I'm seeing this must be Somali clothing. It's pretty nice. Anyways, not very Islamic, of course, but maybe also because of the LGBT thing. I don't know. I'm not sure. Already, yeah, Ilhan Omar has failed her community. I guess that is, that's the problem here, right? She's not really taking care of her community. She's speaking more about the Middle East, right? So whatever. I mean, I don't know the details. I'm not into politics, but I just thought that was interesting. Alrighty, so we went through this one. I don't know if we have time for this. It's already been 2 hours. Let's quickly go to. Let's see what this guy has to say quickly. Let's see if there's anything of input here that's worth talking about.
Anybody who wants to insult the Prophet, they had tons of information.
Okay, you know what? Actually, I'm tired, and it's he's gonna go over many of the same things. And I think we've given this topic justice now. I felt like last week talking about it, I didn't really get into all of the content I wanted to. I didn't get to talk about the health issues. I didn't get to really respond to the sheikhs. We kind of like just showed them on the screen. But this was actually fun. This was much better. Really love the energy level and what everyone was contributing. Please do subscribe if you're new here. Thanks for watching. And I'm going to try to do this every week if possible. So, love you guys. It was a really good stream. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. And as AP would say, stay away from Islam. And this is your friendly ex-Muslim Abdullah signing out.